From polity to environment, today we have some really good articles and we are going to discuss them as part of our daily news analysis. We have mineral diplomacies in news, we have Olive Ridley Turtles in news. Even in the political sphere, this one candidate, multiple constituencies being discussed. So, some really good articles, I would say. Now, before starting with our daily news analysis, let's see this particular quote which says, "The best view comes after the hardest climb." So when you are struggling, once your struggle gets completed, that final stage where all your efforts will come to you in the form of some fruits or some good results, then you will get the really good view of life. But for that, certainly you will have to show that struggle, you will have to show that patience. So I hope this quote would be a good motivation for all of you. Now, before starting with DNA, I would like to notify you regarding the admissions in Narayana IS Academy for 1 year and 2 year prelims plus mains course. Here in this course, you will be having more than 1,000 hours of GS and CSAT plus current affairs lectures. And this course is designed in such a manner that every part of your syllabus gets completed in detail. So for example, we have this micro schedule. This micro schedule actually goes in detail of the entire syllabus of UPSC. So every part of that syllabus will be further analyzed in detail over here. So this micro schedule will ensure that the syllabus is covered from all dimensions. We have expert faculties and even you will be tested almost every weekly. And throughout the course, you will be solving at least 4,000 prelims questions and 1,000 mains practice questions. Apart from that, as part of the resources, you'll be getting some textbooks for your NCRT preparation. So NCRT guides or NCRT navigator books will be there. Then GS navigator books will be there. Some digital resources will be provided, as well as for the current affairs part, you'll be getting monthly navigator magazine. So this is all about the courses. Now let's start with our daily news analysis. So we have taken 4 most important articles. First article is related to mineral diplomacy. So this article combines the minerals part, the critical minerals, and combines it with the diplomatic efforts at the international level. So very interesting article. Second article is a bit concerning for us. Olive Ridley turtles. These are very famous turtles and we find them in Odisha. But right now we have got some bad news about them. Third article is related to one candidate, multiple constituency. Now this is related to elections and reforms in the elections is being suggested many a times, and this is one of the reforms which is being discussed in this article. And fourth article is related to Sanganer open jail. Now we want to know what is an open jail and why do we have this concept? Why are we even focusing on this concept? So this becomes important for your ethics also. Right? So let's start with our first article of the day, that is mineral diplomacy. Now for you, it is important to know what do we mean by critical minerals, what do we mean by mineral diplomacy, and what exactly is India doing in terms of mineral diplomacy. Okay, so this is important for prelims as well as mains GS paper 2 international relations. Now look at this previous year question of the year 2021. Discuss the multi-dimensional implications of uneven distribution of mineral oil in the world. Now this is talking about mineral oil, but when we talk about critical minerals, they are also unevenly distributed. It's not like they are distributed in a manner wherein you will find same amount of critical minerals in India and same amount of critical minerals in China. No, it is not evenly distributed. So such a question, such a broad question can be expected in the mains. Okay. Now, let's understand why this article is in news. Why are we even talking about it? So, please understand there are some minerals which are very important for a country. Now, they are important for two things. One is the economy and other one is the national security of that country. So, let's take an example. Let's say there is a mineral like lithium. Right now we talk about lithium, that we are going to use lithium in the rechargeable batteries. So if we are building electric vehicles, we need lithium. But interestingly, In India, we do not have much resources of lithium. We don't have much mines. We don't have the reserves of lithium in India. So we are dependent on other countries. Now, this lithium is important for our economy because right now we are looking for a transition. Right now, most of our vehicles, they are dependent on fossil fuels. But now what we are saying, we are going to transition towards renewable sources. And we are not going to stay dependent on fossil fuels like petrol, diesel and all. So that clearly says that in future we will have more electric vehicles. But for electric vehicles, you need lithium. That means the entire economy is somehow dependent on how much lithium you can get, whether through import or through mining in your own region. So economically it is important, yes, for your economic growth. Now, if you see the economic growth that we are observing specifically in the IT field, in the electronics field, their lithium is very important. Now, I'm just giving one example of lithium. There are so many critical minerals. And apart from that, there is angle of national security also. See, when you're developing any particular missile, any satellite, any new weapon, with changing technology, you can come up with new advancements in your weapons. But in those weapons also, you require certain minerals. So if a mineral is important for economy as well as for your defense purpose, that is for your national security. And when you're dependent on other countries to get that particular mineral, then it becomes highly critical for you. Why I'm saying this? Let's say you're dependent on China for lithium or let's say any other critical mineral. And suddenly China says we're not going to give any such mineral to India from now onwards. What will India do? First of all, our economy is compromised. Yes, most of our industry which is dependent on that mineral, that will be compromised. They'll not live here. Secondly, our national security will also be compromised. Our defense weapons, which we could have developed using those minerals, we cannot develop that. So, overall, this is the angle. Now, I'm saying whenever such thing is happening, then if the other country knows that we are dependent on that country, then that country will use it as a weapon. So, China can use their critical minerals as a weapon towards India. Weapon means they'll say, we will not provide you. Our supply can be disrupted anytime. So, I can say this in simple terms, any mineral which is very important for the economic development of a country, which is very important for the national security of that country, and that mineral is vulnerable to supply risk. Their supply can be disrupted suddenly anytime. And how that can be done? Let's say because we are having war or any conflict with any other country, because of that, because of geopolitics also, because of trade relations also. So any reason can be there. And most importantly, this supply risk comes up because it is unevenly distributed. So right now, I was giving the example of lithium. So if you see the reserves of lithium, there are some countries in Latin America, three countries, where you will find substantial reserves of lithium. You will find reserves in China, but you will not find so much resources in India or any other friendly country of India. So that's why I'm saying when only few countries are there where these minerals are located or their reserves are concentrated, in that case this supply risk come into picture. Because if you don't have good relations with those countries or due to some reason that supply is disrupted, you will not get that particular mineral. So such mineral will be called as a critical mineral. It is very critical and we are at risk because of these minerals. Now, what happens is that for every country, that mineral could be different. For example, for USA, it might not be lithium, but for India, it could be lithium. So, the list can be different. If we make up a list of critical minerals for India, it could be different for us. Now, what India is saying, or the article is saying, that India should go ahead with mineral diplomacy to ensure that our supply is there. We are dependent on China, and even if China is not providing those minerals, we should go ahead with some partnership with other countries. We should go ahead with the diplomacy through which we can ensure that we will have other partners, or somehow through which we can ensure that the supply of critical minerals is continued in India. So this is military diplomacy. Sorry, mineral diplomacy. Okay. So now look at the critical minerals in different countries. So we were talking about USA. So USA has made a list of total 50 minerals, and USA says that these 50 minerals are very critical for their economy and their national security, and even they are concerned about its supply. In Japan, there are total 31 such minerals. In UK, there are 18 such minerals. So every country will have its own list of critical minerals. Now what about India? So India also has a list of total 30 critical minerals, and this list is completely identified by Ministry of Mines in the year 2023. Now, do we need to read this entire list? The answer is yes. So I suggest after this DNA, when you get the notes, please read all of them just once at least. So this includes antimony, bariate, beryllium, bismuth, borate, cobalt, coking coal, fluorspar, gallium, germanium. Our lithium is here, bauxite is here, tungsten is here. So this is the entire list of 30 critical minerals, right? Now see the dependence. I said that we are dependent on other countries. It's not like we are dependent only on China. I gave the example of China because we depend more on China. But if you look at all this entire list, the reserves are there in only few countries and we are dependent on those countries. Just to give you an example, when it comes to lithium, India is 100% dependent on other countries. We don't have our own reserves or resources. So we take it from Chile, Russia, China, Ireland, Belgium. Almost 100% comes from other countries. So we are dependent. Then if you look at graphite, 60% of the graphite comes as part of import. 40% we have our own. We mine our own graphite. So 60% we are dependent on China, Madagascar, Mozambique, Vietnam, Tanzania. Then one more example of lithium which we already discussed. Now the point is, these data, you can note down any of the data so that in the answers you can substantiate your point that yes, we are certainly dependent on other countries. And these are just few examples. If you go through the entire list, you will find that these are the countries on which we are actually dependent. For example, for vanadium, we are 100% dependent on Kuwait, Germany, South Africa, Brazil, Thailand. Similarly, all other critical minerals are mentioned here. Okay. So this is clear. We are certainly dependent and these are critical minerals for us. These are very critical for us. Now, what has government done till now? What kind of initiatives we have started so that we can ensure that the supply of critical minerals is secured or is ensured completely? So first of all, India brought this amendment in this act, Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Amendment Act 2023. Now what this act actually does is that it provides some concession for mining activity in India. So companies can go ahead with the mining, and whichever this mining license or concession which is given, it includes total 24 of the critical minerals. We have total 30, out of that 24 are part of this particular act. Now through this what we are doing is we are promoting mining activities in India itself, and most importantly we even want that private sector should participate in this mining activity, because if the role of private sector is increased, we will see further development in the exploration or this mining activity. So this is one thing. Second, we have established this Khanij Bidesh India Limited. Now this is a collaborative effort of 2-3 different agencies. What this particular company does is that they acquire mineral assets or minerals in the other countries. Let's say this company can have a contract with a company that is there in Australia, and they might come up with a memorandum of understanding or a pact or an agreement through which they will say that we are going to buy these minerals from their country. So this acquisition is done by this particular agency. Then we have e-waste management rules 2022. Now these are also very important. See, if you look at all these critical minerals, most of them are right now used in our advanced technologies, especially in terms of our electronic products. So mostly in electronic products you will find cobalt, you will find lithium, etc. So most of the times the used electronic devices are thrown as part of garbage. So what these rules say, we can actually use that garbage and recycle it, and we can extract all those minerals from these devices which are already discarded, thrown in the garbage. So some kind of circular economy is being promoted, that we are reusing our stuff, right? So these are the initiatives government has already taken. Now what government is thinking about taking, or what exactly government is focusing on, is mineral diplomacy. That is using diplomacy, using international relations as a strategy to ensure that the supply of critical minerals is ensured for India. So first of all, what India is doing is going ahead with some partnership with other countries. Let's say with Australia, Argentina, Kazakhstan, Bolivia. Now these are those countries who are having these resources. Critical minerals are present in their country in substantial number. So we are going ahead with some agreement with these countries. We are building good relations with them. We are going ahead with signing some MOUs, signing some pacts. So for example, with Australia, we have this lithium and cobalt project which is going on. So such thing is going on already. We are even going ahead with some joint ventures. Joint venture means there will be one company from India, one company from that country. They'll be having a joint partnership and they'll go ahead with a project of mining. Such things are already going on. And the article is also saying we should promote these bilateral partnerships. Now, this is one way we can do mineral diplomacy. The second way is to go ahead with multilateral initiatives. Multilateral, or we can say the initiative in which multiple countries are involved, a kind of small grouping or a large grouping. For example, if you talk about Quad, which includes total 4 countries: India, USA, Japan, and Australia. Now, these 4 countries together they come up for their security initiatives. But with the security initiative, because we said that this critical mineral is also important for our national security. So when you are dealing with the angle of security, you will deal with critical minerals also. So these partners can come up with new projects so that the supply can be ensured. Similarly, there is a group by USA called Mineral Security Partnership. We can take help from this particular initiative. Then we have Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity. So Indo-Pacific is an emerging idea or emerging forum which is going to become very important in future. And in this way, in this particular sphere, when we are looking at economic development as well as security initiatives, we can come up with some partnerships where all the stakeholders, all the countries of this Indo-Pacific framework are involved. Then we have MOUs with some good agencies at the international level. For example, International Energy Agency. We have already some MOUs. We can go ahead with more. So what I'm trying to tell you through all of this is that India can go ahead with partnerships or initiatives at the international level through which we can ensure that even if China or any particular country is not providing us the supply, we can build our own supply lines. We can build our own structures through which we will ensure that even if they say no, we will get the supply from other countries. This is the idea. Now, in this idea, right now, India can focus more or is focusing more on 2 areas. One is Latin America, other one is Central Asia. Now, if you look at the map of Latin America or the South America, you say, there are 3 countries which includes Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. We call them lithium triangle. Lithium triangle. You will find most of the resources or reserves of lithium in these 3 countries only. So if India can have good relations with these 3 countries, can come up with some partnership with these countries, then we can have a really good supply of lithium for a long term. Then we can focus on Central Asia also. Already there is a proposal by Government of India that we will go ahead with India Central Asia Rare Earths Forum. So first we'll build the forum, then we'll go ahead with initiatives and partnerships. So this is something we can talk about when it comes to mineral diplomacy of India. Clear? Now, even if we are doing this, are we going to face any kind of challenges, or are we facing any challenges right now? So the challenges are there. First challenge is related to private sector. Right now, whatever activities are going on, most of them go through government side. So the role of private sector is very less in India. And why it is less? Because Indian government does not come up with any fixed policy on this particular matter. What will be there with respect to critical minerals, what licensing will be required, what all policy framework will be there. There is no complete clarity on this aspect, and government is not providing much incentives which are required for the exploration or these mining activities for private sector. So private sector is not showing much interest. That's one problem. Second, we lack the diplomatic capacity. Right now what is happening is that we are working on this mineral diplomacy, but we don't have any dedicated agency or any department or any club in the government who is focusing specifically on this aspect. So the problem is we actually need some mineral diplomacy division, a specific dedicated division as part of our Ministry of External Affairs. If that is there, then we can say that mineral diplomacy will be focused by some individuals as part of the government machinery. But it is not there at present. So the focus is not there, we can say. Then the third problem is related to environment. Whenever you go for mining activities, most of the times we see that it leads to some degradation of the environment or the biodiversity. So that is one concerning part. And last is the dominance of China. It's not just China. Certainly we are dependent on China. Luckily China has got reserves of these critical minerals. But there is intense competition between countries. Whether you look at USA, you look at Europe, you look at China, all these are competitors and they are having intense competition in terms of these minerals. So it's not that easy for India to get those resources because other countries are also fighting to get those resources, right? So this is the entire story. These are the entire challenges. Now, certainly for each challenge, you will have to give solution as way forward. So for the first private sector issue, we'll say that we need to strengthen the private sector involvement. But for that, first of all, government has to come up with a very clear-cut policy framework which sets the agenda very clear for private sector involvement. And they should be given some incentives. You can give them some tax holiday. Let's say you may say that those companies who will involve in the mining of these critical minerals, government is providing them tax holiday for let's say 3 years, 5 years. For 5 years, they'll not take any tax from them. This can be done. Second, in the Ministry of External Affairs, you should have a dedicated mineral diplomacy division which will focus on these activities. Then, whichever partnership we are building, let's say with Australia or Central Asian countries, we should build long-term sustainable partnerships. We should have really good relations for a long term. This will ensure this supply. And then as far as environmental part is concerned, we should have practices which are highly sustainable in terms of environment. So for that, what we can do additionally is we can focus on the research part. So research and development, if we focus on this, if we can develop some advanced technologies which will ensure that we can sustainably manage all these mining activities in India without having any degradation of environment. So this is the solution. This is the entire article. Okay. So we'll take a short break of few seconds before starting with the second article. If anyone has any doubt, you can ask in the comment box. Okay, good evening. Some students are saying good evening. So, done with the first article? No doubts? Now, let's start with the second article of the day. Now, this article is related to Olive Ridley Turtle, and we said we do not have any good news, rather, a bad news. Now, this article is important for us for prelims as well as mains, specifically for prelims because this species, which is in news, which is a very important species, which is vulnerable also. So, its protection is very important. So, for prelims, this species can be asked directly. Now, you can see the previous year question of 2015. Which of the following is National Aquatic Animal of India? And one of the example is, or the option is Olive Ridley Turtle. Now, this year they might not have asked it directly. Next time they may ask directly. Okay. So, let's see what's the news, what's the context. First of all, we have one coast called Vishakhapatnam coast, part of Andhra Pradesh. On this coast, we got a news that we have found some olive ridley turtle, but not in a good condition, rather in the dead condition. Interestingly, this news came in the month of December, and November and December, these are the 2 months which are considered to be breeding season for this olive ridley turtle. This is the breeding season, and in this season, we are observing this particular news. Now, what could be the reasons? Now, many experts are citing that there could be some reasons. For example, there could be a reason of marine pollution. Right now, we are observing pollution in the seas or oceans, because of which there might be the case of death of many olive ridley turtles. Some say because we have many fishermen working in coastal regions, they go ahead with putting some nets. In those nets, they want fishes to be caught. But instead of fishes, sometimes these olive ridley turtles also accidentally get entangled. So, because of which they die over there. Then some others are saying their habitat has been disrupted. The place where they live, their location, their home is destructed because of human activities. All these could be reasons for this thing. Now we are more interested in knowing this olive ridley turtle, this species itself. Okay. So first of all, its scientific name is Lepidochelys olivacea. This is the scientific name of olive ridley turtle. Now, if you look at this turtle, it is very interesting. First of all, it is considered to be the smallest sea turtle in the entire world. There are so many species in the sea turtle itself. So, out of that, it is the smallest. Second fact is it is carnivorous. So, this is an important fact. But out of all of this, what I find as most important is this species has a very interesting phenomena which is called as aribada or mass nesting. Aribada is the term we usually use. In simple terms, it is mass nesting. So what happens is that all these all these olive ridley turtles, the female species will come to the coastline of a particular area in the month of November, December, and they will lay eggs. So this is very interesting that most of them, it happens at mass scale. It's not like just one or two turtles are coming. It happens at a mass scale wherein hundreds and thousands of such turtles will come to the coast at a particular location at a particular time. At the night time they will come, and by day they will leave that coast. And here happens this mass nesting. Now one of the best example is of this Gahirmatha Marine Sanctuary, which is part of Odisha, which is part of Bhitarkanika National Park. So if you look at this map of Odisha, here you will see this Gahirmatha beach. And these are the regions which are, yes, these are the regions we can say where we observe olive ridley turtles coming. Okay, in the world also there are many other places, many other coastal areas. It's not like every coast will have this olive ridley turtle, but few of them will have olive ridley turtle coming up. Okay, now let's talk about their habitat or their home where they live. Usually we observe that These turtles are found either in the tropical regions or subtropical regions. And because India is part of this, so you will find such turtles in India also. Now, if we look at all these oceans, we will see that in Atlantic, in Pacific, and in Indian Ocean, these olive ridley turtles are found. Now, when we talk about India, and specifically we talk about this Gahirmatha Marine Sanctuary, it is called as world's largest rookery. World's largest rookery. Rookery means a place where animals or some species will lay their eggs or give birth to their younger children. Such place is called rookery, and in the entire world, the largest rookery is Odisha's Gahirmatha Marine Sanctuary. So, a very important fact for us. Now, why we are saying this turtle is very important is because of its status. Right now, if you look at the conservation status under IUCN, it is marked as vulnerable. If you look at its status under Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, it is marked as Schedule 1, and under sites it is in the appendix 1. So when you put something in appendix 1, any species in appendix 1, we say that we cannot carry out international trade of these animals. That means you cannot just take this animal and have a trade, export it to some other country or go ahead with any business practice. You can't do that. So such high level protection has been provided for conservation of this species. When we say it is vulnerable, that means its population is already decreasing, right? And that's why we are taking some efforts for the protection of these species. Now, as far as olive ridley turtle is concerned, in India, the Indian Coast Guard has started one initiative called Operation Olivia. Now, we said that in Odisha, in the month of November, December, we see this mass nesting taking place. So, in that time period, this species should not be disturbed. For that, Indian Coast Guard started this Operation Olivia. Okay. Apart from that, in the state of Odisha and in the state of Andhra Pradesh, they started some new mechanisms. They started building a device and started introducing that device in the nets of fishermen. So what happens, usually fishermen will go ahead and try to get as many fishes as possible, and sometimes turtles will be part of it. So that these turtles can get out of that net, a device is introduced named as turtle excluder device, TED. So you can see, for example, this is the net from which this turtle will come out. So that exclusory part will be there as part of that net. But to install that in the nets, you need government support. You need collaboration between fishermen and the government. So this is happening already in the state of Odisha and in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So these are conservation efforts we are already taking. So this many facts are enough for you to prepare for prelims. Okay. Now we have third article. Again, a short break of few seconds so that you can recollect whatever we studied, and you can ask if you have any doubts in the comment box. Okay, no doubts. Okay, so let's start with the third article. Now this article is related to one candidate, multiple constituencies. This is an important issue in the elections. Now this is important for your prelims as well as mains. More important for the mains, because in the answers you might come up with some reforms in our election systems. One of the reform could be eroding or cancelling out this system of one candidate, multiple constituencies as part of your GS paper. Now look at this previous year question. In India, there is no law restricting the candidates from contesting in one Lok Sabha election from three constituencies? So you'll get the answer of this part directly in the article itself. Second, in 1991 Lok Sabha election, Sri Devilal contested from three Lok Sabha constituencies. And third, as per the existing rules, if a candidate contests in one Lok Sabha election from many constituencies, his or her party should bear the cost of by-elections to the constituencies vacated by him in the event of him or her winning in all the constituencies. A long question, but a very easy question. But you should have an idea about how things exactly happen. How much constituencies can be used as part of elections by these candidates. Okay. Now, first of all, what is exactly happening right now? See, in the year 2024, we had the last Lok Sabha election. Now, every 5 years, we have elections at the Lok Sabha level. At the state level, also elections are going on. And elections in India are very famous. See, it is said that India is known for three things: Taj Mahal, Gandhiji, and elections. And more than that, even if we say that our elections are famous just because 140 crore people are involved, it is one of the largest democracy. An important angle comes up with respect to the money or finance involved. So if you look at the expenditure, how much money is actually spent on the elections overall by government, by political parties, most of the funding will be provided by some corporates. But overall what we can say is how much money is spent in the elections. So if you look at the 2024 general Lok Sabha elections, the cost was somewhere around 1,35,000 crores. If you can imagine the amount, this much amount was spent as part of this 2024 Lok Sabha election. Now, this is not a small thing. Now, India, we have very expensive elections. We spend a lot. Now, the problem is, if this is happening once, we can understand. But if it is happening multiple times, that means election for Lok Sabha is taking place in the year 2024, let's say in the month of June, just for example. In June month, the election is taking place. We spent so much money. We means all the political parties and everyone spent a lot of money. After that, we say that we want to go ahead with some by-elections. Now, what is by-election? See, simply in case a constituency is having no particular MLA or MP or any representative, then we'll go ahead with by-election if there is no election going on at this moment. So right now in June, let's say election took place, and let's say there is one person, let's say Modi ji or Rahul Gandhi or any member of parliament or any candidate who wants to board this election. In this election, they decided they will stand from two different constituencies. Let's say one from UP, one from Kerala. Okay. And let's say this person wins from UP as well as Kerala, both. What will happen? After the elections, they will be MP only from one constituency. So let's say they decide that I'll be the member of parliament from the constituency which is there in UP, and they will vacate their seat from this constituency of Kerala. Now when they will vacate, there is no member of parliament from that constituency. What will happen? Election Commission will have to go ahead with a new election, or what we call as by-election in that area within few months. It is somewhere around, let's say, 6 months. They'll have to go ahead with new election. So just imagine, when we are saying that in India elections are very expensive, we are going ahead with multiple elections. Why? Because the candidates are allowed to contest from multiple constituencies. This is allowed. If there would have been any rule wherein it would have been said that if there is one candidate, that candidate can stand from only one constituency in India, no other constituency as such. In that case, we would not require so many by-elections in India. So we would not require to spend so much money on these by-elections. So this is the idea which we are discussing right now. So first of all, we have financial burden. See, even if you say that this money is being spent by political parties, why do we need to worry? It's the pressurizing thing or stress for the political parties. But how does the money come to political parties? eventually that money is coming from the taxpayers. So we are saying that there is financial burden on the citizens of India. Secondly, there is burden on the administration also. So let's say Election Commission of India. First they go ahead with such a large election. After that, many seats become vacant and they'll have to go ahead with another large election. So this is just pressure on the administrative machinery. Now, we are saying that this idea itself of having multiple constituencies for one candidate, it might help them in their politics, but it goes against the principles of democracy. See, in democracy, when we came up with our constitution, we had this principle of one person, one vote, one value. So one citizen got only one vote and they could vote in their own constituency only, not anywhere else. But when it comes to candidates, they were not given any such principle wherein one candidate will go ahead with only one constituency. They are allowed to contest from multiple constituencies. So this is somewhere undemocratic, we can say. Now, if you look at the legal background of it, how exactly it started or what led to introduction of any kind of law related to these multiple constituency issue. So we have this Representation of Peoples Act 1951. There is section 70. There are other sections also. Now earlier we did not have any provision which restricted these candidates from contesting from multiple constituencies. So one person could stand for election from multiple places. Let's say in UP, Kerala, in Arunachal Pradesh, from 5-6 constituencies also a person could go for election. That was possible earlier. There was no restriction. But this act, this section, all this was amended in the year 1996. So in this year, government said, or the amendment said, that at maximum you can go ahead with 2 constituencies. So if someone is boarding election, they can go ahead with maximum 2 constituencies. They can't go for election, they can't nominate themselves for election in any third or fourth or fifth constituency as such. So the restriction of 2 came into picture. Now, when they brought this amendment, the idea was that through this amendment we will ensure that this financial burden which is coming to taxpayers or this administrative pressure which is building on the Election Commission of India, we can reduce that. That was thought, but in reality that never happened. In reality, the same phenomena actually continued. That people still continue going ahead with multiple constituencies. Now they have 2 options, they go ahead with 2 options and they vacate 1 seat after they are elected. So that means we are saying this issue is not yet solved. This amendment is not yet that much fruitful. So Election Commission of India many a times talks about it. Now we might say, some people might say that Election Commission of India should take some action against it, but they can't do that. They do not have the authority to do that, because for this restriction, if you want that there should be complete restriction on going for multiple constituencies, you need some amendment to be made in this act, and that can be done by Parliament. That can't be done by Election Commission. Okay, so this is the background for now. Now if you compare yourself or India with any other country in this term, so first of all we'll compare ourselves with our enemy brotherhood, that is Pakistan. So in Pakistan there is no restriction. One leader can stand from 5 different constituencies, there is no restriction. If you look at Bangladesh, they have brought a law and they have restricted it to 5 constituencies at max, not more than that. But if you look at the major democracies of the world, if you look at USA, UK or any European country, what they are doing, most of these countries have put some ban or a restriction on this practice of going ahead with multiple constituencies. They are saying, what about the accountability of these leaders? When you stand from 2 different constituencies and you just leave one after getting elected, what about your accountability towards the people? So that's why they are saying it is undemocratic. So they are removing such practice. So India can learn from this example. And if you look at the reports from Election Commission of India, report by the Law Commission, they also suggested that we should ban this practice. So we need to update this section 33(7) of Representation of People's Act. Sometimes even Election Commission of India says that if in case we are not amending this, we are allowing this multiple constituencies. In that case, what should be done is, in case a leader is elected from two different constituencies, and now because he will vacate one, there will be by-election. So whatever cost is required for that by-election, that cost should be taken care of by this leader itself. He should pay for that election, not the government or not the taxpayers, not the political parties, but that leader, because he or she vacated this seat. This is one of the reforms which is proposed by Election Commission. Then one of the reform is you can delay the by-elections. So right now what we do is within 6 months we try to get it done. If you delay that process, then there is a chance that you will get more time. Voters will also get more time to decide on what to do. The leaders will also get time. So somehow all these reforms are giving suggestion that the present system is not good. We need reforms. Okay. I hope you understood this article. Now, the last article of the day. Let me check if we have any comments or any questions. No questions? Okay. So let's start with our last article of the day. That is related to open jails in India. Open jails. We're specifically talking about this Sanganer open jail in Rajasthan. Now we need to know what do we mean by open jail. Important for prelims as well as mains. For mains from GS paper 2 as well as GS paper 4. This idea of open jail is very important. You can quote this in your answers as part of your way forward or as a solution as part of our prison reforms. So let's understand why it is in news, what's exactly happened. So there is a dispute going on in the state of Rajasthan. So what happened is that there is a jail in Rajasthan, Sangner jail. Government of Rajasthan said that we want to use some land of this jail to build a hospital. Some land, not the entire land, but some land of this jail to make a hospital. But the jail is saying, no, you shouldn't do that. Or people are saying, no, you should not do that. Because we have, this jail is not a normal jail, it's an open jail. And open jail is considered to be a good version of a jail, which tries to reform people and not just punish them. So this dispute is going on. Now when this dispute was going on, people went to Supreme Court. And what Supreme Court said, we are sending a commissioner to go and visit this particular jail, this open jail which you are saying, go and visit and give the report to the Supreme Court, after which they'll come up with some decision. So that's why we are discussing what is actually open jail or open prison. Now normally the idea of jail or prison comes into picture when we see that some people are going against the society. They are anti-social people, or they are doing something which is harmful to the society. So what society does, through a system, that society tries to put these few people who are doing some anti-social activities, and they try to restrict their activities in the society. So to help society to do that, state will build a prison. So any person, let's say he's killing someone or going against the basic rules which are established in the society, they will be just restricted from entering in the society itself. So you may get a jail of 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, whatever. For that time period, you can't have any relation, any activity or any social life with your society. This is the idea of jail or idea of prison. Now it is said that when you are committing a mistake or a crime, you should be given punishment in the same manner, in the same proportion. So the idea of retributive justice comes into picture. You study these aspects in the ethics. Retributive justice, that you should be given punishment, you should be penalized for what wrong you have done. Now this is the idea. But actual idea, if we go in the essence of why we built this jail, is it to punish the people who did some crime, or is it to reform the people? This is something very important for us to understand. If we start sending people in the jail, everyone might commit some or the other crime, so you will have to put almost everyone in the jail. So we are saying we are sending people to jail so that in this time period they will learn that they had done something wrong. They will reform themselves, they will change and become good citizens, and then they will be sent back to our social life, our society, our community. Their activities will not be restricted after that, and they'll become good citizens. This is the core idea why we started this prison system, or why we should actually have prison system. And this open jail system actually promotes this idea, the idea of reformative justice. Reformative justice. So there are normal jails where we put the people, that's their punishment. But open jails are relatively free jails. The people living in the jail, they can carry out their basic activities relatively in a free manner. So what they will have is higher degree of freedom. So they might they might live with their spouse, with their children. They can carry out basic activities just like agriculture, or any basic project is going on, they can work there. So somewhat the life a person lives in our social life, similar life can be lived in an open jail. But this will not be provided for every person. Let's say there is a person who is supposed to go ahead with 10 years of jail. He has to live for 10 years in the jail. So let's say for 5 years he might be put in that high security jail, but for the next 5 years or 4 years he might be put in the open jail where he will have free activities. Okay, so how this open jail looks, what are the key features of it? First of all, the security is very minimal. When you look at normal jails, those are high security jails. Your activity is completely controlled. Whatever you do, every action is checked. But this will not be done in the open jails. Second, it will be having a work based system. You can work just like you do your work in your normal day to day life. You can go ahead with agricultural activities, dairy farming, you can work in the public projects which are going on in the construction activity, etc. etc. Then you will have self governance authorities also. For example, in India, normal citizens, we have our self government institutions. For example, we have Panchayati Raj system, municipalities, etc. So in the jails, these open jails, these people, these prisoners will have their own panchayats also, which is called Bandi Panchayat. So such phenomena which shows that establishment of democracy within the jail system itself. This is very interesting. And also, as I said, you can include your family members. So open jail is a system in which you can live with your spouse, live with your children. Even these children can go to their schools. So you need schools in the open jail system. So when you have an open jail, there will be schools, there will be basic playground, all those basic activities which are part of our social civic life, all that will be here. So this is how open jail looks. Now, is it a new concept or is it an old concept? The answer is it is an old concept. First time we saw this open jail establishment in the year 1949 in Uttar Pradesh, Lucknow city. That was the first time. But by 1952, we saw many such open jails getting established in Uttar Pradesh. Now, this year is very important because this is the time in which, at the international level, we started talking about open jails. Specifically, we have this convention or the conference called Hague Conference of 1952. At the international level, it was being discussed that we should have we need to ensure that the people living in the prisons also, their life should be very near to the community life. We live a community life, similar life should be there for them also. They should not be completely alienated. Okay, so in India also by 1952 we had so many such jails. Later on other states also started making or establishing such jails. Please understand, establishment or governance of jail, administration of jails is not under central government's authority but under state government's authority. So state government started doing that. So right now we are talking about the controversy with respect to the Sangner open jail in Rajasthan. It was established in the year 1963. Now, at the international level, many countries say that we should treat even prisoners with compassion. We should give them some humane treatment. We should not be very harsh towards them because whatever they did it because of ignorance. So, we should have humane conditions even in the prisons. So, one of the best example is of Norway. There is this prison called Bastøy prison in Norway. It is considered to be world's most humane prison. You see, usually what happens in any jail in entire world, if there is a person, there is one person who is going to the jail. You put this person in jail for let's say 10 years. So he did some crime, so he was put in the jail. After coming out of this jail, he does something else. He does the second crime. Again he is put in jail. Again he does a higher crime or larger crime. This is called recidivism. Recidivism. So this is very common, whether in India or any other parts of the world, this is very common. So people are saying, or the scholars are arguing, that when you just punish people, when you go for retributive justice, this recidivism will not stop. But if you try to reform people, if you try to reform their hearts, the idea of Gandhiji, that Hriday Parivartan should happen, hearts should reform. If that happens, then you will have lesser recidivism. That means people after coming out of jail, they will not go ahead with new criminal activity, rather they will become good citizens. So the best example is this Bastøy prison of Norway. They go for very humane treatment for prisoners, and they have observed that the lowest recidivism rate is there in this particular prison as compared to any prison in the entire world. So this is a very good case study for us to mention in the ethics answer or in the GS2 answers. Okay. Now there are some recommendations in India by this Mullah committee of 1980-83. This committee said that if there is a land which is there with a normal prison like this high security prison, we are not talking about open prison. So if there is a land with this prison, if that land can be used to make open jails, then we should do that. So we have a big prison, we can take some land and make it open jail. That should be done. Second, they said we should focus on work-based engagement. Give them some work, some livelihood activities. And third, when they do some kind of work, their wages, their payment should be uniform, should be equal or similar. It should not happen that for some people you are giving more payment, for some you are giving less. This should not happen. It should be uniform. So these are the recommendations given by Mullah committee. Clear? So this is the article about open jails in India. Clear? Now let's start with our discussion for our mains practice questions and prelims practice questions. You can read this question. I'll discuss the answer. Yes. Discuss the importance of critical minerals for India's economy and national security, highlighting the challenges and strategies in ensuring their supply. So first of all, you have to discuss the importance of these minerals for our economy and national security. So in the introduction itself, first tell them what does it mean by critical minerals. You can talk about the list that we have. You don't need to mention each and every mineral. You can tell them that there are 30 minerals declared by the Ministry of Mines, etc. And our dependency is there with respect to these minerals. Okay. So firstly, in the introduction, when you talk about critical minerals, then the first body part would be what is the importance. So you can talk about the renewable energy sources, electric vehicles, electric batteries, then the economic growth. All for all of this, we need critical minerals. Even additionally, you can mention about your defense equipments and all, defense technologies. You need this. Then what challenges you are facing? So first challenge is we depend on other countries, specifically China. There is a risk of supply chain disturbance or disruption. There is competition, you can mention. And then give a solution also. So first show them what government is already doing, the policy initiatives, bilateral mechanisms, what this car bill initiative, e-waste rules, all this we are doing. And right now we are going ahead with mineral diplomacy. You can quote some examples of mineral diplomacy, and at the end you can say that even the Atmanirbhar Bharat program, that also focuses on building our own mineral security. So this is how you can end this answer. Okay. Now the second one. Now this is the question from the articles which we discussed on Saturday. So the answers has to be discussed. So consider the following statements about European Free Trade Association, EFTA. First, Norway is a member of EFTA. Yes, that is true. Unlike EU, EFTA is not a customs union. That is also true. Its headquarters are located in Luxembourg. Now, this is absolutely wrong. It is, I guess, in Geneva, in Switzerland. So, third is wrong. So, 1 and 2, A is the right answer for this. Okay. Second question, India and UAE are members of which of the following organizations? Now, this is a very basic question and very easy question. Is India part of Gulf Cooperation Council? Not at all. Is India part of I2U2? Yes. This I2, one I is India. Then International Solar Alliance? Yes, India is part. But we are not just talking about India, we are talking about UAE also. So for that, you need to know the facts. So yes, UAE is part of I2U2 and International Solar Alliance. So 2 and 3 is the right answer. Even if you know that India is not part of Gulf Cooperation Council, still you can eliminate and reach to this B answer. Then the next question, with reference to Indian government's effective capital expenditure, which of the following statements are correct? Effective capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP currently stands at around 8% of GDP. Now this is factually incorrect. This is actually 4 or let's say 4.2% to be very specific. Effective capital expenditure has consistently increased in the past 5 years. This is absolutely true, and you can understand the trend. Government is spending hell lot on capital expenditure to build capital, to build infrastructure and all. So this is happening. So 2 is right. So B is the right answer. Now, as part of your homework, you have to attempt these questions which are from today's articles. You'll get the link in the comment box where you can directly attempt it. So I request you to go ahead with that. So the first question will be this, related to Olive Ridley Turtles. This is very easy question. You can read this. Gahirmata Marine Sanctuary in Odisha is the world's largest rookery. Then these turtles are listed in under Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act, and Operation Olivia is conducted by Indian Coast Guard to safeguard these Ridley population. Very easy question, I would say. Okay. Then next question, Representation of People's Act. It originally allowed candidates to contest elections from multiple constituencies without any restriction. And this 1996 amendment, it limited candidates from contesting from maximum 3 constituencies. Again, very easy question. We have discussed this. And third is about open jails. These open jails are defined as places for confinement of eligible prisoners on specific conditions. The definition is provided under Model Prisons and Correctional Services Act 2023. Now this is a bit difficult question and bit factual question. So it's a combination of easy, moderate and tough question. I request all of you to attempt that from the link given in the comment box directly. From this, I would say we complete our session for the daily news analysis. Thank you so much for joining. We'll meet in the next session.